order generation. Okay. So to proceed with the order generation process, you basically have two ways. Okay, you have either EDI way of processing an order, or you have your manual way of processing an order. If I talk about EDI way of processing an order, that means you have your systems interconnected some way or the other with certain kind of interfaces or some APIs. Until unless you have them, you will not be able to process your automatic orders, or you can say an EDI processed orders, or orders coming from external system basically, or an ERP software. Another way is you are actually getting into the system, TM system, you are actually creating a manual way of order. So let us take an example for the same. Okay, so suppose let us take an example of Tata Steel. Okay, so Tata Steel and DHL. Okay, so suppose we are Tata Steel is actually having Tata Steel already had a contract with DHL. Okay, as a preferred logistics partner. Considering DHL already has set up complete set of things as a prerequisite in a master data. Once they have it, the orders will be coming from Tata Steel. So once the orders will be coming from Tata Steel with the regular set of agreements, whatever they are already having in the system. Okay. So orders will be coming either in two ways. Okay. That is what I was explaining about. That is, Tata Steel might have an interface through which they might book it, which might reach out via EDI interface or via any channel and would reach out to DHL's SAP TM system. Or there could be another way. Tata Steel guy could reach up to DHL store or DHL guy, or DHL guy can move up to Tata Steel company. Okay. Accordingly, they might create a manual way of order. They might definitely be receiving a certain kind of a receipt on the same. Once the order is taken, okay, what does that order contain? Order basically contain a very primitive, very basic set of values. That is your to and from destination. Okay, your amount of quantity that will be traveling, the date and time, the preferred way of basically communication or transportation. That is something once it is decided, the Tata Steel has already parted its way. So definitely it is now up to the responsibility of DHL. So now things comes into the DHL's queue. Okay. And when it comes into DHL's queue, you have something called as planning, which is actually taking place over here. Okay. So when I talk about planning, it is DHL who is planning Tata Steel's shipment. Okay. Suppose Tata Steel want to send out certain order, which is from Delhi to Mumbai. Okay. So suppose from Delhi to Mumbai, I need to plan accordingly. I means DHL. Once DHL is planning, DHL will be planning it in a complete holistic manner, whether it is an international transportation or whether it is a domestic transportation. Okay, suppose this case is what we are considering as from movement from Delhi to Mumbai is a domestic transportation. Okay, if it is an international transportation, definitely multiple set of legs will be involved. We'll talk about that. Okay. So if I talk about planning, planning means what all things will be taken into account. That means how many number of trucks will be there. Okay, what is the timeline which is given by the customer? That is, we'll have to export by third week. Okay, so it has to be delivered by so and so date. So what could be the preferred mode of transportation? I could use air as a mode of transportation from Delhi to Mumbai, rail, road. Okay, I have three preferred ways. What could be the best cost effective way from DHL's perspective? Okay, that is something I'll have to identify. Okay, that is something which is coming into the planning aspect. Okay, so I'll be selecting the best carrier. Okay, best mode of transportation. Okay, moreover, not complete way of pricing, I would say, but yes, overall estimated way that what could be the pricing I would be um, receiving. Okay, so I would be getting, or on an overall level, on a planning level. And most importantly, you go with the planning aspect. That is, you have two ways of planning. Most importantly, that is your manual way of planning. That is, you are actually putting out certain efforts. You are identifying the trucks. You are identifying the carriers. So you are actually putting up stack by stack. Okay, you are building the house brick by brick. Okay, so you do not have automated something. So if you are automating something, that means it comes into your optimizer's way of planning. When I talk about optimizers way of planning, that means it requires a huge amount of your data to process, to churn out, then to provide a specific result. That is something which is referred as a optimizers based planning. And you do have optimizers based settings which you will be maintaining, which will be assisted by your ABAP code. Definitely, without an ABAP code you cannot churn that data out. Okay, that requires a data as well as a ABAP effort to develop such kind of optimizer. Optimizer can be used for any kind of purpose. Okay, it could be used for route selection, it could be used for carrier selection, it could be used for pricing. Okay, so it totally depends on the business objective, that on what particular basis you are actually proceeding ahead with. Okay, so that totally comes into the planning aspect. So once you have completed your planning, I had identified that you have Delhi to Mumbai movement, which is via single truck. Okay, which is on this particular timeline. I have planned it, I have not confirmed it. Who will be confirming this? The execution team of DHL. Okay, so DHL's execution team will be now be taking it under once your planning is actually completed, your order is actually onto the ground, and it is complete in the planning terms. Once the planning is completed, you would be moving ahead with the execution with the same guidelines, same layout that planning team has laid, that you have to move from Delhi to Mumbai in third week, but which date is totally dependent upon the execution team to pick it up, based upon the carrier's availability, based upon the charges that I will be using. Maybe during weekends there could be more charges, weekdays, or there is a specific holiday, might be more charges. So totally depending upon that particular time range that is being allowed by planning team, we can move ahead. Okay, accordingly that basically forms a basic platform that what has to be done at the ground level in an overall terms. Okay, so that talk about complete end-to-end tracking as well. Okay, you will be tracking your object, you will be tracking your truck, okay, or a consignment, whatever you'll be sending out from Tata Steel's order. Suppose you're sending 10 tons of steel. Okay, definitely you will be collaborating with the carrier. Okay, definitely the carrier will be taken into account, carrier's availability, complete connotation and messaging from both of the sides, that is from DHL's perspective, okay, and the carrier's perspective. Okay, so most of these things will be taken into account, which will be falling under something called as your, in TM terms, I would say, if it will be falling under something called as a freight order. Okay, freight order is something which is a order or document which is created for the carrier in TM system to represent a carrier's order. Okay, and the thing that you are able to see over there as a part of booking, okay, which is also related towards your execution only. Okay, why execution? There is a specific different or slight difference between your freight order and freight booking, which is nothing but a kind of an carrier order only. But freight order is generally raised for road and rail kind of orders. For air and ocean kind of orders or air and ocean kind of bookings, you will be creating a freight booking in the system. That is something from the point of view of what all complexities that you will be able to see in ocean and air, which will not be there much, which in your road or rail kind of cases. Prominently, you will have to book your air and ocean consignment up during your planning time only. That is why you can see it is almost partially falling into planning and as well as into the execution as well. So you do have to take care of the same. Okay, that is something is taken into account, and once it is done, you'll be following up the same thing in the execution level as well. That is your air and ocean booking. So there are a lot of things which will be completely be common between your freight order and freight booking. But since these two have certain kind of distinguishing parameter based upon the transportation mode, that would be differentiating, and way of operation will definitely be changed. Once you have your execution done, so that is your third cycle, third part, third pillar is completed. You'll be moving on towards your fourth part or fourth segment, that is your settlement part. Once your execution is completed, Okay, DHL has delivered from Delhi to Mumbai the goods. So what you would be doing is you would be raising out the invoices, you would be raising out the payment method to your client. That is from this perspective. This is something called, you can say, as um, from DHL's perspective to Tata Steel's perspective. So definitely, and one more payment structure will come into picture. That is from DHL to Tata Steel and DHL to your carrier. So definitely, DHL is not the person who is actually going to drive your vehicle and drive your goods from one place to another. DHL will be definitely be outsourcing with the carrier. That is why what you have your carrier integration or carrier connection that is enrolled in your execution panel. So you will be raising two kind of settlements, which will be referred as your customer payment, which is generally called as forwarding settlement. You will be raising carrier payment, which will generally be called as your freight settlement. Okay, so these two are the kind of documents that you will be raising based upon the condition to condition, business process to process. It is not a mandatory structure that you will be following the entire thing as of like this only. Okay, so based upon the business process, based upon the timelines, guidelines, you will be proceeding ahead accordingly. But in general, I would say whatever, considering our example as of now, what we have considered as of today, so customer payment will be reflecting your something which DHL will be getting from Tata Steel. Okay, suppose they are receiving $100, and definitely DHL must have incurred some cost. Okay, not only the transportation cost, there could be any number of costs that includes your uh, scanning fees, baggage fees, okay, import fees, export fees. Okay, so there could be n number of things that you will be able to see. Okay, once you have once you have your things decided, definitely your DHL is definitely going to proceed ahead for the carrier payments. That is what all are, they might have their own carriers as well. That is also okay. They might outsource to your local transporters as well. That is also possible because your transportation is totally under your DHL's coordination. Once these are raised in the system, these invoices, I would say not invoices, these are not yet invoices as of now. These are just the settlement documents that are raised in TM system. These will be moved to the interconnected finance system, which is connected. Okay, so it could be your FI system, it could be any other ERP software system, it could be a third party system where your invoices will be going. So most importantly, your your team process from the core will be completing from the settlement point. So once the settlement is raised, it will be moving on to your third party system, that is your ERP system. So from there on, you will be only be receiving the updates or status updates or your billing document or references from your finance system. If it is suppose SAP FI, okay, which is connected to SAP TM, so you might be receiving some certain updates from there. And that is something which is taken as a part of your core SAP TM process, which comprises of complete end-to-end thing. Apart from that, definitely you do have multiple add-on things that you might be using. You might use EWM as your uh, software module. You might use event management. You might use GTS. You might use uh, certain another kind of ERP softwares like CRM. Okay, so there are n number of numerous ways where what, and that totally depends on the requirement of the business. And according to the business requirement, you will be modulating your processes, and accordingly, you will be proceeding. So this is just a brief snippet of about SAP TM, that what all things that we'll be covering. So definitely, if you would like to proceed, to let me know. We'll be proceeding ahead. Do connect with me on the same.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.